This is episode 13 of Food for Thought. Title: Keeping It Real. Whatever happened to thick skin? Okay, so there's a Mike Tyson quote that says, social media made you all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Somewhere along the line, people forgot how to talk to each other, how to disagree, how to joke, how to show respect even when you don't see eye to eye. Social media gave everyone a voice, but it also took away accountability. You can say anything, hide behind the screen, and never have to deal with the human being on the other end. We see it everywhere. People acting tough online, picking fights they never have in person, or blowing up over words that used to mean nothing. So today, I'm sitting down with my good buddy Tom to talk about what happened to basic respect, to real conversation, and how we can get back to some of it. Hopefully, two regular guys can figure out what's going on. So, Tom, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me. Good. Just day at a time, hanging in there.
Yeah, yeah, join the club. Anyway, so listen, everybody, I got all these talking points here, and the first thing I want to do is talk about the Tyson quote. Okay, just mention what you think about it. My talking point is about the quote. It says consequences versus comfort. Tom, what's your take on this? How do you read this?
I certainly okay. So let's. I want to start with just saying that in general, the topic is it feels like definitely has some weight these days, and I think I can kind of relate as well. Although I don't spend much time on social media myself, but. One super recent example, as of like 10 minutes ago, I was speaking with my ex, and she was telling me how, one of the new teachers in the school essentially is exhibiting some form of this. So it's a thing in the world for sure. And it's this effect of kind of like being in your car, right? You feel protected, you feel invincible in your car, and you become a super asshole when people, cut you off or whatever, despite of the reason for why they cut you off. And this is a similar thing, right? It's like you behind a screen, you feel like you can't be hurt, and therefore, your brain's like, hey, I can do whatever the hell I want, and it's fine. Um, so yeah, so I overall, in a nutshell, I kind of agree that this is happening to some degree.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. It's happening every day. You can't. I've been avoiding a lot of social media lately because I'm tired of reading all these comments. And many times it's happened where I'm going to respond to someone, you know, and I stop myself. I take a few steps back and I don't engage because I know it's going to start an endless uh, post war of all these comments going on for days and weeks. And it's not worth it, because at the end of the day, this person is somewhere else in the world. And I basically don't care anything about their lives, their opinions. It means nothing to me. So I avoid it 100%. You know that's me.
It's probably
But
worth
a
asking
lot of
yourself,
people
like,
don't.
what, that people what?
Yeah, but I said a lot of people don't ignore that. They engage, but not me.
Right. I mean, right. I mean, you, how reactive do you want to be? I mean, I think if you're going to be a, responsible adult or a thinking adult, you should ask yourself, what does it really matter? Like, is this, or am I interacting with a person who's open to, a two-way conversation, right? And exchanging ideas versus just venting because they found a place to vent for whatever reason. I
Right.
mean, if we're going to solve any issues in this world, it's through conversation and negotiation, not through just I don't know, yelling at each other, right? Because
Right,
our nervous
exactly.
system is saying, "Hey, I'm pissed off and I don't like this." So, yeah,
Basically.
but it does take some self control, right?
Yeah. Uh, What do you think changed in the way people speak to each other? Was there a particular point in time maybe where everything changed? Do you think with the internet had that much effect on us, or was it something else?
Well, I think that as soon as you change their scenario or the circumstances, right?
Mhm.
Like you can take people that grew up on social media and then put them in a same room face to face and in order to have whatever conversation, and I think you'll find that pretty quickly um the physical presence causes people to snap back
Intimidation.
into the more, yeah, but yeah, physical presence, and is the signaling from the physical presence that you get that you don't get over your phone screen, and that automatically will make your brain do things a little differently and respond a little differently,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
so you just as quickly as the phones had their effect on how you interact with one another, taking away the phones or taking away the boundary or taking away the screen in between, or the protective screen in between, if you will, let's call it that. I think you'll snap back into what it used to be like. It's just we wired this way. It's just the environment changed. Like the human brain hasn't really changed. It's just the environment it's been put into is different.
Right. I think a lot of times people like I don't want to say the virtual world. I don't think it's really virtual. Uh, but let's say online media, social, whatever. These people live a lot of the times in their head. The physical presence of a human being kind of snaps them out of that, brings them back kind of to reality. You know, if some of these people ever met, I don't even think they would actually kill each other. I think they would actually behave kind of civilly, even if they're fighting online. At least most of them, anyway. Normal people would. Uh, it's a whole strange dynamic that I really don't understand very much, but I'm trying to. So that's basically my next talking point: the rise of keyboard courage. How and why? Well, I think we kind of covered that. So I want to go to the next one. Uh, do we still know how to have real conversations? The kind that don't hide behind the screen. I think real conversations, a real exchange of ideas is kind of like a skill. I don't know if it's an art form exactly, but it's kind of a skill that maybe the generations that are born and bred online, if that's even a term, uh, actually are not really accustomed to. They're accustomed to speaking maybe to their immediate family, maybe a couple of friends, but people in general they have problems communicating with.
Yeah, there's probably truth to that. Yeah, I mean, I have an example of my daughter who's 19 and in college, and has been able to make several friends and is totally doing well in that environment, and making friends is not an issue, or being social is very much not an issue. But talking to strangers, like at a grocery store, for example, talking to the clerk, right, or just bumping into, I don't know, a random person in the street, or asking for directions, right? That's
Right.
that's definitely a bit of an issue for her. Again, it's just one person, um, but maybe that's somewhat indicative of what you're talking about here. Um,
Yeah, I think it
I don't
is
know. People
actually.
are pretty smart, right? Like like young people are intelligent. Like look, they have the same or better brains than people did, whatever, 1,000 years ago, let's
That's
say,
right.
right?
Okay, that's right.
Um, so
The
they
same
can
or
totally
better,
learn.
correct? That's right.
So I have no doubt that they have the potential, can learn, and do learn if they, if they choose to. Um, it's just, I think, I don't know, the average is being skewed, in this less positive direction. Also think that social media being a fairly new phenomenon in the world, uh, a lot of experimentation went on, and a lot of the
That's right.
novel behaviors were being, tried for the first time. Uh,
That's
but
right.
I think now that it's been here for 10 plus years or whatever, people are starting to figure out that, hey, just because you do have access to the internet and all these, social media sites and social media in general, it's not necessarily all that great either. Like, right? People are starting to see the
Right.
pendulum starting to swing the other way. People are beginning to see the other side of it, meaning the negative effects, the fact that, hey, it's not end all be all, to be online like that. Oh yeah, there is this thing we used to do, which is meet in person, and that has and recognizing that that has tremendous value as well, right? And sort of
Right.
being like, okay, like it's cool to have social media, but hey, I at least half the time I want to go and actually spend time with people in person. um
Yeah,
so
exactly.
at least if that's not really happening, that I at least I'm hopeful that that's where things are going. And I've heard a couple of opinions, from like, well, you, YouTube personalities, right, that are uh, older and wiser out there that do speak out, that sort of seem to support this view.
Cool. Do you think social media rewards disrespect? In other words, do you think algorithms are kind of looking for this kind of a stuff out there, these heated debates online, and make them more
Totally.
accessible to people to get more clicks or whatever?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally. I mean, the algorithm is trying to mess with your brain in such a way that you stay engaged. And the
Yes,
number one top
absolutely. Thank
reason
you.
is to point things to you that will enrage you and you know make you angry. And
Engage.
it doesn't matter whether that has real value for as far as solving problems and quality of life goes, right? It's strictly primary thing is, hey, make you click on shit again and make you swipe more. And I mean, so
Right.
it's like, what we used to have these magazines, or we probably still do, the trash magazines, right? That the front
Hmm.
cover always showed you the most recent crazy things that might have happened out there in the world. I mean, this is kind of similar, except in
Right. The
electronic form.
I think I understand what you're talking about. They used to have the
Tabloids, right?
Daily Sun, the tabloids, the Daily Sun or
No,
something like
tabloids,
that.
tabloids.
Yeah, it
Like,
was a tabloid. It was kind of something like that. But yeah, before it was just like they used to publish stories about Bigfoot and all kinds of crazy stuff
yeah, yeah.
just to make people
UFO
buy the
landings,
magazine. UFO
you
landing,
know,
Elvis is an
just
alien, and all kinds of stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Lizard people, everything, right? Just the
Right,
crazy, wacky shit that freaking X-Files, and on
right,
paper.
exactly. That's right. And people bought it up. I remember when I was young, I used to buy some of these magazines too. It used to make me, it was like summertime and I had half an hour to kill. So I would get one of these magazines, read up on what was going on. And of course, whoever saw Elvis or whoever saw the Bigfoot never had photographic evidence. It was, you could tell at the end of the story, it was a bunch of BS. But in the
No,
meantime,
there's like a pure sales gimmick, right? Like,
yeah,
what can I
absolutely.
put on paper to make you go and grab this and potentially buy into it for a little bit? But hey, did you make the sale? Okay, bottom line, all right, you succeeded. So this is sort of just a product that will sell, but it's also a product that's,
Exactly.
well, more or less worthless, it's strictly entertainment and it's not even good entertainment, but hey, it'll make you pick it up because it's just unbelievable, right?
Exactly. And the algorithms are doing their part to keep that going. You make all of these
Yeah,
claims, no matter
they're
how
getting better and better at it.
incredible they are, and people are gonna buy it up. They're gonna get in there and they're gonna engage and they're gonna make a like, or you're gonna follow the thread. And some of these
Well,
threads go on for days and weeks. Some of these threads are really long.
we got the brains we've got, right? Like the evolution
That's right.
made us susceptible and reactive to certain stimuli, and the algorithm takes advantage of that, and here we are today.
That's right.
On top of that, it's getting personalized as well, right? Because the more data they collect on you specifically, the better and better they get to know like what you specifically react to, so they can like really tune it up to
Yeah,
your,
that's right.
you
That's the
know,
insidious part. Yeah, that's it's getting, yeah, really manipulative. It's part of
yeah.
propaganda.
I mean, they know what you
But
reacted to in the past, and like, oh, it's likely that you'll react to these other similar things as well. So hey, here we go.
exactly. That's right. Do you think social media? Okay, this question is not going to be a very good one, I think. Uh it's too broad, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Do you think social media has made people brave, or has it just revealed how hateful people really are?
Not, not brave in any real sense. Again, it's this:
That's
I'm
right.
in my car and I feel safe on a road, um, type of environment, right? It's just a thing
Right.
that human brain does. It's like when you have a shield, you feel more. It's more likely that you'll say stuff that is, well, hateful and angry, because you don't feel like you need to really protect yourself from anything, right? You feel
Right.
invincible, so you let it be, and you're like, and I mean, it's just a human thing. It's just a thing that humans
Right.
do. Um, you know,
Yeah,
if
I
you knew
agree.
that it was Mike Tyson that caught you off, I doubt you'll say anything, or I
That's
doubt
right.
you'll flip a finger, right?
Exactly.
Uh, because yeah, well, for obvious reasons.
Right.
You don't want Mike Tyson to like block the road in front
Get
of
out
you,
of
so
his
you can't
car.
go
Yeah, you don't
anywhere.
want him to get
Get
out
out
of
of
his
the car and
car
start
because
walking towards you, right? Because
that's right.
you're like, okay, because before you flip your finger at Mike Tyson, you might be like, oh, maybe this could happen, and I don't think I want to risk that, so I'll chill. I'm good.
That's right. Exactly. Let's kind of change it a little bit right now. Looking at the next talking point. Talking about the creation of emojis for a second. Okay, I actually spoke about this in one of the English classes that I had taught last year. Was it maybe 2023? Texting removes tone, empathy, and facial expression. We're losing the nuances of communication, body language, learned body language, if you will. I think many of the young people today, they have problems communicating with other people, other strangers, because they don't know how to read body language so well. And that's why they created emojis, so they can see your face without seeing your face. So if I crack a stupid joke and I'm laughing, the guy in the other line that I'm speaking to, whether whoever it may be, is going to realize I'm joking, even if what I said wasn't even funny. They might send back the same emoji. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about that? In general.
In general, I think that communicating with written, I mean, all forms of or all channels of communication have their limitations.
True.
What's more effective and in what situation? I mean, written communications certainly will have their place, right, and have their definite uses. Like there is no discounting that. But is there room for misinterpretation? Pretty much always, even in legal documents, for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that communication is just tricky always,
Yeah.
and if you
Even in
really
even in person when you're speaking
care,
to someone you know well, you can misinterpret what's going on.
for sure,
But in
yeah,
particular,
like really,
texting and group chats, a hell of a lot of information can get lost of
oh my
what you're
God,
really
yeah,
trying to say.
it it's one of the reasons why I don't really like, texting back and forth in order to actually accomplish whatever, to really communicate about important things, and would much rather be sitting at a table, face to face, maybe with a notepad, maybe with a, Google
Bottle of
search
wine.
or AI open. Yeah, to like, well, I don't know. I have a tendency, or I have maybe even a conviction at this point that really getting to the bottom of things, takes time and like sort of dedicated research time, because I mean, the world is just complicated. So really nailing things down and really getting stuff right, and preferably the first time, maybe the second time, it really does require you to pay attention, take the time, but that's, man, that's a lot of effort, right? But um again, I think that's what it takes. I mean, that at least that's how my brain operates. Like, I mean, maybe that's
Okay.
probably part of the reason why I ended up in, like, some engineering, software engineering or whatever, computer engineering in my case, but because it allows you to do things in a very exact, precise manner, right? The computer or the program is going to do exactly what you instruct it to do,
Right.
whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and you must, right? It's a requirement that you give it the exact right set of instructions. And again, I think it's, similar in life with when communicating with people, uh, because again, because it's so easy to misinterpret or have a different point of view, and therefore have assign different meaning to statements and to, yeah, to communications. So I don't know. Let me stop there.
Okay. Cool. No problem. Uh Talking point. Next one. Do you think it's true that everyone wants to be heard and yet nobody wants to listen? It does seem like
Some people,
this is the case, you know? At least sometimes anyway.
I mean, some people want to listen. Some probably do that naturally. Some probably, I'm going to include myself in this group, do it because they understand that in order to be a valuable companion or friend, you know, like listening is key. Allowing others to talk about themselves, because that is a natural human tendency, right? Unless you're allowed to express yourself to others, and while you're expressing yourself, see that the other person is being compassionate and is actually hearing you out. I think that's like number one key in the human relations. So
Yes.
yeah, everybody wants
Empathy.
to express themselves, for sure. you, Everybody wants to be heard and understood, and, well, at the end of that, loved for who they are. um and then if you in fact care for the other person, right, your family, your friends, you'll give them the time to express themselves, and that's the listening part.
Right. More let's say in
and
general
uh,
terms, people online. Uh, I think holds true for people online, like on the socials or whatever, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it out there today. That's what it seems like. But yeah, in general terms, people are more willing to listen once they have some kind of emotional investment in the relationship. But as soon as you get online and you're speaking to strangers, people don't give, a, they don't care at all what anybody else has to say. They just want to stand out there, get on top of their soapbox and preach the way they think the world should be. Um,
I'm gonna say that it's that people just try, young people trying to be active online or feeling like they need to be involved in social media, like that drive comes from the fear of being left out of where the action is, out of where
okay, that
what
could
everyone
be.
else is doing, and be
Yes,
left out and be left behind. So, and being left behind is,
it's bad. Being left out of the group is
yeah,
like tantamount
right.
to how do you say, exile, which is bad.
It's right. It's back in the day in the grade school and high school, you want to be part of the group, but you have no without the internet, right? You have no other avenue for that than being meeting or hanging with people in person. Now with social media, there's this other avenue, and but obviously you made to believe that this is important as you're growing up these days. So you want to be in there and you want to be participating, right? And you not want to be left out. So, but it's the fear of being left out. I think that's it, it's the same fear as before, right? That's driving it.
What about the illusion of connection versus the reality of isolation? People think they're connected to people all over the world, and in a certain sense they are, but they're all sitting home alone in in the basement, all by their lonesome, and they feel connected to everybody else. But it's really not. It's actually quite false.
Probably for every individual person to judge whether they really feel isolated or not, whether their state, whether their life is, sufficiently, whether there is, I don't know, sufficient contact and which type of contact, right?
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, look, without physical contact, without being in the same room with a person, right? You lose some of the sensory information that comes from it. Like, I mean, you can start with smells, actual, you know, well, maybe not voice, but perhaps sight, right? Over the phone and camera, what you see is somewhat limited generally, or more limited, right? There is the ambient noises in the room, may be different, that you may not get that over an audio or video call. And then there is, touch, which is like, right, like you can't hug, you can't, I don't know.
pat
Body
somebody on the
language is
back.
certainly, seeing body language, seeing the entire body as it stands, like what the feet are doing. You
That's
generally don't
right.
get on camera, for example. Um, any sort of fidgeting and nervous um, behavior is going to be also limited, or or you seeing it is going to be limited versus if you were there in person. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, all that
You think it's up for
is in
people
fact
to
lost.
decide? So you said before. I think you said it's up to the individual uh, to determine if they're really isolated or connected. Something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, at some point you gotta get honest with yourself and be like, all right, which of these more physical things, right? Or more direct things, as if you were in the same room with the other person. Do you really need? Do you really want? And and you may decide that, yeah, you know what? I mean, over the phone is great, but like I'd really want to be able to be in a kitchen with the other person and cook breakfast or dinner from time to time, right? Like that, it's something
Right.
you don't get to do, on camera. Um, or shit, you could be in a room with the other person, not even say anything, right? For a while, you can be just doing your own things. Like one works in one corner, one works in the other corner, and just that may be fine. Just knowing that the other person is like at 10 feet away or something, or 20 feet away, or maybe in the other room behind the door, right? Like, but hey, maybe you come out and like roam around the kitchen at the same time for lunch or something, if that's all you get, like, that's again,
Okay.
that's a nuance, and like seems like maybe trivial, but like it's certainly different than what you could get over the phone.
Okay. Let's go to the next segment. The lost art of real conversation. Before likes, comments, and threads, we had something better. We had conversations. We called people, we sat across the table, we disagreed, laughed, debated, and stayed friends. The best conversations weren't about who was right, they were about curiosity, honesty, and respect, and also learning maybe a different point of view. Uh, well, you learned something even if you didn't agree. Now, it seems like today, all kinds of disagreements are seen automatically as an attack. And I believe it's because of self identification with belief systems of who you are as a person, or who you think you are, or how you want to be perceived by the world in general. I know that, yeah, that's kind of like a mouthful, but I think that's what's going on. So I actually kind of combined a couple of talking points in there, just in case you were wondering where I was. That's what I just did, Tom. Well, uh, the first talking point in this section says, "Do you remember when people called each other instead of texting?" I remember when we were at Polytech. Basically, that was the time. That was like, oh my God, that was long ago. That was about 30 years ago, and we didn't have if people had cell phones, they certainly weren't smartphones where you could do everything that you could do now. At most, you can send someone a message on the beeper, send a message and they call you back at the time. But do you remember just doing that,
Beepers, yeah.
calling up people? Beepers, remember that?
uh,
I was the only
uh,
one who never got a beeper. I never had a beeper. I didn't like the idea of people tracking me down wherever I was and making me call them back. I had to avoid that. I didn't like it. Uh, but I mean, do you just remember that sitting there chilling, talking on the phone, whether to me or somebody else, way back when? Was it better or worse? I don't know. I know it was different.
Better or worse? I mean, that that always requires you to first define, using what criteria, and defining what is it that you're optimizing for in that scenario, to
Yes.
really understand whether you're closer to this thing you're optimizing to or further away, right? Which then allows you to say, yeah, it's better or worse. So we haven't lost the ability to talk with people on the phone if you choose to. Um,
Right.
I
Well,
mean, we are certainly more reactive to people pinging us or texting us than we used to be, right? Before the beepers, there was never an ability for you to reach somebody, within seconds anywhere in the world, to give
right.
them a message, and therefore people were more used to waiting for responses, or waiting for regular scheduled meetings, maybe you have had a, I don't know, a weekly Sunday, call, right? To check up or
Right.
to talk or to
Yeah,
schedule a
my
hangout or
father
something.
did that every Sunday for many years. He would call his family in Italy. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
guess the further you are away from certain people, the more you want to stay connected. I know me on my side personally. I'm really far away from. I mean, I'm in Italy. Everybody I know, well, not everybody I know. Excuse me. Let's say the people I really want to keep in touch with, they're all in America. So I'm actually benefiting quite a bit from all of this technology. But I remember the old days where it was just a telephone, and I can understand why people are kind of romanticizing it. You follow? They say, "Oh, in the good old days, we used to do this and we used to do that." Well, some things in the good old days weren't really good at all. You know what I mean? But I'm actually benefiting quite a bit from this new technology: video calls, audio calls, you know, internet calls, internet video calls. I mean,
well,
I could not
I
imagine
wonder,
me living here under the same conditions as I had like 30 years ago. Because if I had to live here today and not be able to communicate with anybody in America, every once a month make a phone call to someone, it would be too much. You know, this way every week I'm in contact with people in America, and it's great.
sure. Okay, so in your opinion, that's right. It's things are better. Well, that's an
I
improvement.
don't. Well, I don't. Well, I think it's an improvement. I don't know. I know I'm benefiting greatly from new means of communication that weren't available to us, 30 years ago.
You're using a phrase like "I'm benefiting greatly" is hard to interpret any other way than "Hey, things are better" in that respect.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I don't know if things are better, but I'm benefiting greatly. If I want to just say something to my brother, I can send him a message every day instead of calling him once a month. You know what I mean? On a regular landline.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. The flip side of that is you now have this immediacy available to you.
Right.
Uh, but before, you essentially kind of you were forced to wait for communications, and I think maybe the waiting um, made it seemed made the communication more valuable, and like you got to miss it maybe for a little bit.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I agree with that. It's true. It's like in the older days, still, people used to write letters. My father used to sit down and write letters to his family in Italy because at a certain point, I guess it was way too expensive to call every week, you know?
yeah,
So he would sit down and write like one general letter to his sister Angela, and basically, she would get the letter, and everybody would be informed about what's going on. You know, it's true.
well, that's the world, whatever, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Letters were a thing. Now we got email. But
I don't know.
look, overall living standards are improving, right?
Yes,
Meaning smaller and smaller percentage of the population goes hungry these days. Like it's easier and easier to feed people, to clothe people, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a ton of problems in this world, right?
absolutely.
Slavery included, and human trafficking, and oh my God, and and everything else that's out there.
Yes,
But any
absolutely.
one person living, right? An average person today has the ability to expend as much resources and energy as kings did, a couple of hundred years ago. right? The fact that you
Yep.
can jump on a plane and travel across the world for, not that much money. The fact that you can have foods from every continent pretty much,
Yep.
just by making a phone call or going to a local restaurant, having fresh fruit from from across half the world in your supermarket, around the year. I mean, you know, that's some power that, kings of the old would have been jealous of, right? Hey, how do I get a
I
fresh
think so.
orange? Just by going down the
Yeah,
street.
really. What's exotic, in the supermarket today? We can say that today we're a king. To eat anything besides what was grown maybe 5 miles away was unheard of, right?
Yep, yep.
So in a way, technology is going ahead, and I know it's improved my life by way of communication. Actually, well, anyway, I don't wanna hop on this point too much. I want to get ahead over here. Uh, Let me skip one talking point to get to another one, which I'm looking at right now. What do you think made great conversations great? Was it the depth, vulnerability, humor? Was it being drunk at the time?
Well, one glass of whatever is probably fine, but pretty soon you start slurring and nobody can understand you. So
Yeah, but then you would at that point nobody really cares what you're saying anyway, because everybody's
there,
thinking you're Socrates, so they don't care anymore.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call that a great conversation at that point, but
I know I'm just joking. Come on. But anyway, no, back to the real question. What do you think makes great conversations great?
I mean, I don't think that's changed. I mean, you know, it's the same thing that makes them great today.
And what is that?
Mutual respect, right? Like eh, eh, having the conversation be a two-way street,
Okay.
curiosity on both parts, compassion on both sides. I mean, uh,
Okay.
if it's more of a social thing, obviously humor and yeah, vulnerability is a big one. I mean, especially if you
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
like letting people know that, hey, um, it's yeah, vulnerability is this letting right is letting other people know that um, you are human just like them, right? And
Yes.
here is the real proof for it. Um, and that allows you to relate on the deepest level. So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and
That's
that
good.
that drives connection, right? It's like, all right, we're in the same tribe, we're in the same group, same village, whatever, the same boat somehow.
That's right.
Your
Yeah.
well-being, my well-being depends on your well-being, and yeah, and vice versa.
Okay. So the last talking point I want to talk to in this section is this quote or idea. We used to listen to understand. Now we listen to respond. Do you think that's true, and why?
I mean, I can't relate to that one. Maybe that's more true for the younger generation, perhaps. Maybe they feel like they, need to respond first before anything else. Yeah, I certainly that's sort of a foreign to me.
Okay, maybe that's because of the way you're built. You got your personality, your habits, your communication style. Maybe you
Yeah,
don't see that so much. Maybe you don't see that so much.
yeah, I mean,
But
being older,
I can,
right?
you can
Like,
see this like sometimes with people. I know I'm guilty of this myself sometimes. Um, I'm not so happy or proud to admit that sometimes Instead of trying to understand, I listen to know how I'm going to respond. Um, it's like total disregard for the other part of the conversation because you know you believe you're right, and all you're doing is trying to figure out the best way for you to get your point across that you are correct. Now, I don't think I'm guilty of this anymore, but in the past I have been. Um, it's not a
Wow.
real good way of communicating.
No, I mean, I totally agree. And if you can pull it off, a lot of the time, at least, that's, hey, kudos to you, man. Because, um, yeah, that's definitely, I think that people should do all the time, and that's definitely what's how true communication, effective communication, has a chance to actually work. Without that, without actually listening to the other person, hearing and understanding, and reacting, to that before going forward with your own ideas or your own thoughts is I think it's kind of just key, period.
Yeah,
And it's sometimes difficult, right? Sometimes like you're overloaded, you are whatever, too stressed to give a shit about
yes,
anybody else's life
yeah,
or issues or problems, right? Like
right,
like you got it in your head, the primary focus is the shit that's in your own head. And sometimes
yeah.
you just got no
Sometimes,
room
yes,
for anything else.
I think that's part of it too. Right. Part of the problem maybe with communication today is exactly what we've just said. Whereas real connection can make people stronger. Um, this is going to lead to the next segment and the next talking points that people used to have thicker skin. Okay, so our parents' generation, even ours to some extent, Tom, could handle a lot more. You could be teased, criticized, or disagreed with, and you didn't take it personally. And if you did take it personally, you dealt with it. It was basically became your problem sometimes. Well, today everything seems to be an offense. Everything is personal. A disagreement becomes an attack, a personal attack, not on your belief system and worldview. Okay, what do you think
Yeah,
having thick skin actually means? You know, in real terms.
I mean, before going after answering, like, yeah, I kind of have to agree, and I think I've seen firsthand examples of people not having as thick of a skin as what I've used to, or as what I've seen, in the past when I was growing up. Like, man, teasing each other in grade school was a constant thing. I mean, all day long.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
and people just figured out how to. I mean, shit, I hated it, but like you,
Yeah, me too. But you
um,
know, you learn to you learn to walk it off, as they say. You learn to
well,
deal with it. You shrug it off.
yeah, 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 right. You learn to cope with it on some level. Hopefully, it doesn't break you in some way. Is it? I mean, I don't know if it's really overall, if it's a positive or negative. The fact that that this pressure, this friction makes you, gives you the time and to figure out how to deal with it. Whether that is then, a thing that you can use later in life and it helps you, right?
I
Like you
think it
get this
does.
bonus later,
That's
um,
right.
or it's like a weapon or I don't know, a strategy that you are forced to develop, and then it helps you, right? It pays benefits for the rest of your life in some way. You know, is
Absolutely.
is is that better than maybe, being in a society where, that doesn't happen nearly as much, and then you don't develop this, I don't know, coping strategy and or weapon. Um, I don't know. I don't know what's better, like overall. um,
Okay. Well, I
you
think
know,
it's better to have a thick skin because not everybody's nice. Not everybody's gonna treat you with kid gloves, especially if you get into business or some kind of I don't know, some kind of way that you're trying to earn your bread. People are gonna start coming after you because that's the way the world
well,
is.
but
So
you
it's
can
better
make an
to
argument,
develop
right?
some kind of a coping mechanism when you're young, and it's relatively harmless.
Well, yeah, but right, but like, what are the other options here? Like, maybe changing the culture and society in such a way that,
Yeah, good luck with
there's
that, pal.
teasing and
How do
bullying.
you
No, I
how
know,
do
I
you
know, I
plan to
know.
accomplish that?
I'm not saying that this is a thing that's gonna be quick, you know, but like getting past, the big example that society sort of got through is understanding that, what, slavery is not really a good thing or a cool thing, even though, you can kind of adapt to it, you know, and no matter which side of the fence you end up on in that space. It seems like that we've learned that, not having slavery is overall better, and you can have a world and economy that deals without it, you know, being in place, right?
Yes.
And maybe overall it's even better.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, for goodness sake, nobody. I don't think. Well, I don't want to say nobody, but for the most part, nobody wants slavery around anymore, right? I think that's a no-brainer.
right.
Okay,
But you go
but
back, a couple of hundred years, and you talk to people, to those who did, in fact, were in a position of owning slaves. They're like, "Oh no, this is the greatest thing ever, man! You kidding me?" Um,
yeah, but
no, for real, right?
no, it's true. But I'm saying that I'm not. I think we're kind of shining away from the from the concept about having a thick skin. Okay, let me share something with you, Tom, and something to the people out there. In my neighborhood, growing a thick skin was a necessity. Okay, we had this rite of passage, uh, and we called it ranking each other out, where you try to come up with the best insults that you possibly can to unsettle the other guy.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I probably had something similar when you were growing up.
I'm, I'm very familiar with the concept.
Okay, so it was a rite of passage for us to do it. Whether you wanted to or not, someone was gonna come after you one day, and they're gonna be like, yeah, those shoes look like you got them from the poor box or whatever, and it would just start. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's your mama jokes, man.
It's your there you go. Your mama's so fat when she wears high heels, she strikes oil.
Yep, among other
Well,
things.
not
Yeah.
not to get on heavy set and obese people, but that's some of the things that they would say, and it conditions you basically to grow a thicker skin. So either it's like two reactions: you grow a thicker skin, and you learn to argue back with words, or you get into a fist fight with everybody in the neighborhood. It's your choice because they weren't gonna stop because it was gonna happen sooner or later. So you had to be prepared to defend yourself one way or another. That's how it was in Astoria. Um, Growing up in the '70s and the '80s, that's how it was. I don't know if it's like that anymore. I'm pretty sure it
Well,
probably is because all over the
I
place,
mean,
it's
I don't know if
history always repeats itself. So
I imagine it happens to some degree in grade school, high school, right? And maybe, back in the day when you actually hung out with friends on the street or in your neighborhood, it happened in your neighborhood as well, face to face. Uh,
Right.
I wonder if that has moved to some degree to online, which I imagine it did. Like I guess it had to.
Absolutely.
I
Had
just,
to have.
again, I'm just not online.
Into a
Whatever, I'm
certain
not in social
in
media
a certain
enough.
sense. Right. Well, in general, they would call it cyberbullying now. You know, but the problem is you're picking at the weakest components of of the school, the weakest individual. It's bullying. It's not so cool. If these people don't fight back, don't argue their way back to a certain level of dignity, it's bad for that
Right.
person. These poor things, right? Well, well, after all of that, this talking point here, the next one says, are younger generations more fragile because of all of this? Or are they just more expressive? Or they express themselves differently? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say probably, because if you don't get your pressure and your beatings, right, and then have an opportunity to figure out how to respond, yeah, you're not going to have that shield or
Right.
um ability to shrug it off as
That's
much.
right.
So yeah, I would agree with that. That like when it comes to emotional uh, barrage, you would be yeah, younger people are probably more fragile. You start making fun of them, right? They will tend to take it more personally,
Right.
and it will affect them more than it might affect us.
Right. Okay. Next one. Did comfort replace resilience? Has the younger generation, our generation, or any other generation, because I don't want to beat on the younger generation um, all the time, but it's just for comparison reasons of comparison. They're quite different from us. Uh, did comfort replace resilience? What do you think, anyway?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say anything about that one.
Okay,
Um,
I think to a certain extent, it has. You know, there's that quote out there. Uh, hard men produce good times produce soft men produce hard times. Um, people after the war, after World War I, World War II, the population in general was much more resilient. They didn't want that for their children, all of those tough times. So they tried to start making things better, slowly, year after year. And it got to the point where you get like people are so used to good that they've kind of become soft. They're less resilient. Well, at least that's the way I see it. We're going to jump to the next one. The decline of discipline. Everything's about feelings, not growth. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know. I think again, it's. I'm going to go back to the changing environment rather than changing how people are built or wired. Um,
Okay. Changing an environment. We can jump down two talking points to the danger of overprotection. So by changing the environment now to one of a hyper protective environment, is that shielding people more from discomfort, or is it effectively rendering people more fragile to all the things that might possibly happen to them in the world?
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that being overprotective is not good thing. Like the outcomes are gonna be definitely worse than if you right there's a sweet spot there, right? Like the parent and or teacher or guardian, should allow the kid to should create an environment where the kid is exposed to the amount of pressure they can handle. Not too little, not too much, right? You don't pressure them, or you don't give them stuff
Right,
that's difficult, so difficult that they are bound to fail, and you don't give them, things or apply pressure that's like nothing or is super easy. But you got to
right,
be somewhere in between. You got to give them something that they can like stretch a little bit and accomplish it, right? Because when they stretch a little bit,
right,
right, they figure a little bit out, and at the end of it, they can feel like they've accomplished something, and that gives them the motivation
uh,
and
right,
pride, right? That they can feel proud of their accomplishment and they have motivation for next time. And that's how you keep them growing, you know. Um, so it takes paying attention. It takes yeah, whoever the guardian is or whatever the environment is set up like, it needs to shoot for that sweet spot. So to get people growing.
right.
You pressure them too
Do you
much, you break
think?
them, and you fuck them up
Yeah,
forever.
right,
Like you overprotective. You don't pressure them enough. Like they get really soft. So
right. So, do you agree that overprotective environment has led to, let's say, this victimhood culture that is prevalent in society today?
yeah, yeah. I think it's a
I think
factor.
it has.
Yeah,
I think it
I
has
think there's
actually.
a
It's a
surge or a
it's
spike.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
20 years ago, right? I think we started. Not sure what caused it, but parents started being really overprotective with their kids. Uh, yeah, I'm forgetting exactly like what the causes of that were, um, but
Well, it's
yeah,
probably more than one thing.
it's a
That's for
thing.
sure.
What's that?
I said it's probably more than one thing. That's for sure. But anyway, um, let's talk about the role of humor for a moment. Okay. How many times? I mean, I'm trying to think of a time in my life when it happened to me. Um, that laughter was used to diffuse tension. You know, it's like you're really angry or you're really sad or something. Somebody cracks a joke and you laugh. You kind of get out of your head. You know. Do you think that could be very useful uh, today as a tool, let's say, for helping people get out of their head?
Yeah, I mean, it always has been. That's why stand-up comedy is still making, is doing pretty well.
Right.
Um, no, totally, right? I mean, humor or whatever, we're joking about things allows you to actually even start the conversation about some topic that may be otherwise super uncomfortable.
Well, let's talk about building real strength. Maybe thick skin isn't about being hard. Maybe it's about balance, after all. Real strength isn't pretending not to feel, it's learning
Hmm.
how to handle what you feel. So you can be sensitive and strong, honest and kind. The real test, maybe, isn't avoiding discomfort, it's facing it and learning from it. Okay, so what do you think about true strength is equal to calm under pressure and not avoidance?
Yeah, definitely not avoiding it. Um, if you can, man, if you can figure out how to be calm under pressure, that's great.
That's worth
But
that's
it's
worth a
also,
million books right there.
yeah, but it's definitely difficult, right? I mean, it takes some take some practice, maybe deliberate practice even, like if you can somehow arrange that. But yeah, unfortunately, our brain switches to this, fight or flight mode, right? When under tension, when under stress. Uh, and at that moment, unfortunately, the logic goes out the window. So I don't know, catching yourself, going to the fight or flight, um, and not allowing yourself to go there, or maybe giving yourself time to
To work on it,
depressurize,
maybe.
right? And
Yeah,
yeah, and come back
it's
to the
hard to
table
override
when
the
you.
flight.
It
It's
is,
hard
it
to
is.
override the flight. Yeah, it's not easy. Many people have that reaction, you know.
All people
So
have
I
that
don't know what could
reaction.
be done about that. Maybe some kind of a therapy would be good for that. I have no idea, but it's there.
It's work, right? Like you totally gotta
Yeah,
be able to work up to a place where, when and if and when you find yourself in a stressful, situation, to be able, or conversation, right? Or a heated conversation, to like catch it and, you know, communicate to the other person, right? In such a way that, hey, like, why don't we take a break? This is an important issue. I want to keep talking about this, but let's meet in a couple hours when we had a chance to cool off and try to be productive, right? What do you think, right? Give the other person the power
okay,
to have some control over what happens, right? Because it's like it essentially says that you're not trying to control everything or control the situation. You being open to resolving the issue rather than, uh, hey, I just want to, be right, and
right,
talk louder than you. So, so I have the less word.
right. Yeah, they have a saying in Sicily. Uh, Basically, it's kind of along the lines of what you just said. They said, "Whoever yells the loudest is right." In arguments, of course. Whoever yells the loudest is right. Um, and it's quite true over here, actually. Many times that's the way it ends up. But coming back to us here, do you think? Well, the next talking point says this: the discipline of humility, hearing hard truths without ego. Do you think humility is a character trait, or could it actually become a discipline, something that you can work on?
Yeah, I think they can definitely improve it. Uh, but it's character trait, probably, but it doesn't mean that. Well, shoot, you probably grew up with some level of humility, right? You're probably somewhere on a spectrum. I mean, okay, obviously, by definition, you're somewhere on a spectrum, but
Right.
yeah, I think as you get older and wiser, definitely it's something you can, improve, right? Or learn to apply correct in more appropriate situations for it, maybe, right? So maybe use humility in a more effective way somehow. Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, human brain is a powerful thing. Like you can learn a ton of stuff, and you can train for like pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
I
was just
mean,
thinking about
obviously,
that. Uh,
overriding your,
yes, overriding your.
you, you,
But
you,
when someone's really
you-
arrogant, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough.
well,
But maybe
I mean,
anything is possible. Maybe, right?
well, you did a podcast a while back, right? About what was it, Socrates, and hey, and controlling the things that you can, and allowing the things that you can't control be, and not get flustered by them,
Right. That's right.
right? I mean, yeah, I think that that's the principle to apply here. You can only do as so much.
That's right.
You can do your part, right? You can't do the other person's part.
Okay. My next talking point is talking about emotional maturity. Is it and it being the new toughness? What do you think is a good way to describe emotional maturity? I think it seems like a kind of a simple question, but it's not so simple, I think.
I mean, for me, it has a lot to do with just acceptance of
What you can control and what you can't control.
what you can, and what, yeah, what other people want and how other people are, and y-
I think
yeah,
people
and
reach
like,
emotional maturity after they've gone through a whole plethora of
one,
problems in their life. You learn what you
yeah, I
can
mean, the
deal
more you,
with and what you can't deal with. You learn how to deal with certain emotions. You don't get overtaken by your emotions. I
and
think it's
it's
a
how
whole
do you deal with
process that we
failure
go
too?
through. Yeah, that's right. How do you go through all this? You got to learn to suck it up, and it all starts, by learning at a young age, I believe. You have to be introduced to things so that slowly, as you mature physically and mentally, also, you're doing that emotionally. So you get to a certain point that you're a fully functional adult. At least we hope so. Okay. And the other part of this is it the new toughness? Or do you think so? Anyway, I mean, I don't
I
know.
don't know about you, but it's definitely, yeah, I think that's always has been, the again, being able to stay in control of your own self is what allows you to be the figure that leads the conversation, or hopefully in a good direction or better direction for everyone. I think it's
Right.
always been, you know maturity, yeah, is allows you to be tough, and be tough in such a way that it's compassionate and
Sometimes
exudes
vulnerable.
strength, if you will, to others, meaning that others, like, through that, others will perceive you and see you as someone who doesn't crumble, and despite setbacks, he still believes that they can go forward and do good things, as opposed to, get, I don't know, start pissing, vinegar, if you will, and be just, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to be positive despite all the bad shit that happened to me. Like, how do you
Right.
do that?
Yeah. Right. Well, you need a place to start. Maturity is a good place to start. Do you think people have to relearn to learn once again how to have difficult conversations?
I mean, look, so obviously it's not everyone that all of a sudden forgot how to have difficult conversations, right? There's obviously those people that recognize that,
Right.
y- that then having difficult conversations is a valuable thing to do in life and to be better at in life. Um, it's probably more of a matter of, you know, are we driving this as much in society as perhaps we used to? Is that declining? Maybe it's declining because of whatever, the internets and the social media, blah blah blah. At least right now, um, but the potential for this remains in place. Like, hey, if you have good guidance from whatever teacher's parents, like, you probably got to invest some time in understanding what it being better at difficult conversations. So
Right.
I don't think it's all lost.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, again, I
Right.
think
Yeah.
this
Exactly. It's
social
not all
media is a
lost,
big
but maybe it
experiment.
has to be reintroduced to a certain subset of society. I hate to beat on the younger people, but You know, uh, but I think maybe they need to actually learn what it's like to have difficult conversations, which actually is incorporating into this the next talking point, which says teaching younger generations to engage and to not escape. You
And how
know,
do you think? So by escaping, like that's you want to define that a little better, like escaping to what, like
yeah,
just sort of like
yeah,
what we talked about
physically,
earlier.
physically run away, physically run away, or disengage the conversation, or become violent, become offended. You know, you don't agree with my ideas, but at the end of the day, you're you and I'm me. Your opinion is worth as much as mine, and you don't have to agree with me. You know what I mean? It seems to be this tendency of younger generation today where if you don't agree with them, they take it as a personal attack. It's hate speech or whatever else, that the political correct police come up with these days to define it.
I mean, what do you do about that? I mean, yeah, again, I think it's the environment that sort of introduced, this default behavior, right, to a bigger degree than it ever has been. Um,
Yes.
but now what? I mean,
Well, you start with one conversation at a time.
yeah, well, how do you have this
You know,
conversation? I
maybe
mean,
well, you sit down, you get off the internet, you sit down face to face,
well,
and you start speaking. What do you think about
give me a
this? What do you
tangible
think
example
about
of
that?
how you would have. All right, how would you actually do that? What would that actually look like for you? Like, if you had to had one of
Well,
these,
if I
how would
had to
you
run
go
a
to,
session like that,
about
like
doing
I
that?
have, well, basically, I have had sessions like this. Um, well, when I was teaching English at that school, uh, basically, sometimes, many times, actually, I was known for this, where my English lessons would become like group therapy sessions, and
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
point, and they would become also like point counterpoint arguments. Why do you believe this, and why do you believe that? And I would try to squeeze the English out of these kids' brains by making them go in different directions where they normally would not go otherwise. And we had some pretty good conversations. So you have a
Yeah, I
relatively
bet.
safe space where people are not judged. They can express themselves, right? And you don't have to. We have to make it clear to everyone. You don't have to agree with me at the end of the day. Just as long as there's enough mutual respect to continue functioning in society in a civil manner.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to drive at is that you had an environment where you already had people there in physical presence, right?
Right.
So I don't know, having like meetup groups or meetup like things that for not necessarily directly for this reason get people together, but then allow them to again be social and be open and safe, was is probably the primary is step, in this direction. So
Yeah.
I don't
Step
know,
one:
like
get
organizing those
people
those sorts of
together. There you
things.
go.
Um, yeah, I don't know. This is something that I'm not very good at. Just kind of organizing and having people get together. So maybe that's where I'm
Well,
struggling.
it doesn't have to be you to organize, but I'm sure there are school counselors who can figure out better ways of doing this than me. Because I have no, I'm not a school counselor. I don't have any kind of a sociology degree or psychiatry degree. But I'm sure the experts out there can figure it out. I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, I'm sure there are ways. There are solutions out there to implement. Question is, what do we do about it? Personally. if anything, right? Is this a cause? I don't know. Like, what do I do tomorrow to make a difference in, with this, if anything, right? I don't.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Mhm.
Anyway, Tom, we're getting close to the end of this. I'm not going to torture you for too much longer. Okay, well, at the end of the day, it all comes down to respect for yourself and for others. Keep it real. Say what you mean what you say. Don't hide behind screens. Don't crumble under criticism. Learn to laugh, to listen, to disagree without destroying. Because if we can't handle the truth, we can't handle life. Tom, I want to give you a big thank you for coming out here and joining me today. Uh, you're always a good sport when it comes to these conversations here. But I always learn something new, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Like, likewise. And thanks for having me again.
It was my pleasure, pal. Listen, thanks for joining us today, all of you out there. This has been food for thought. If you enjoyed the episode, hit like, subscribe, and follow us. Drop a comment below if anything we said resonated with you. So until next time, question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you. Until next time, bye.
Every question is a doorway, every answer is a light. We're all searching for a meaning through the long and restless night. Question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you. Step beyond what feels certain, let your heart begin to see. It's the questions that awaken all we're meant to be. Question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you. Not every answer's found in the light. Sometimes it's the journey through the unknown that brings us home. Question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you. Not every answer is found in the light. Sometimes it's the journey through the unknown that brings us home. Question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you. Not every answer's found in the light. Sometimes it's the journey through the unknown that brings us home. Question what you know, challenge what you believe, and see where the truth takes you.